Ooh, I love this. We are we are recording. I love this. I'm gonna play around with this some more. Uh,
Okay.
so how you feeling?
I'm
Sage and
feeling
Blue
great.
back and we are video.
Well, I'm feeling good, just continuing to, be present,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is interesting. I was reading from doing my morning routine, and I read this book, and it has like daily, I guess you could say like daily affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
And so I read from that, and then it kind of gives me some ideas about what to write a lot of times. So it's like a writing prompt, but more so for my own internal work.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Sharing that the name.
yeah, sure. Yeah. So the book is called the Daily Stoic, and it says 366 meditations on wisdom, perseverance, and the art of living. And so, and it has each day, it has, different thing on it. So I've been reading it for a little bit. And today was quite interesting. Like, I had to sit with it for a minute because I was like, does delusion go too far? Does it go too far?
That's a great
Because
question.
I think being like, I think it could be a helpful push, you know, to kind of see, what the end result is, right? Like to live in that space. But at the same time, when does our ego step in to make it like it says in here? It says delusions of grandeur, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
is a different type of delusion, right? I think, delusion can help in a little bit because it kind of gets you to use your imagination a little. It kind of stretch
Art.
yourself, to see what's possible. But then, when does our ego step in to make it look like pie in the sky type of thing? You know what I mean? So yeah, I was I was like asking myself, am I? Do I have delusions of grandeur? Is that something that's but just being in the introspection. I didn't get to the journal writing, but I got to that part. So yeah, I read that
That's a
this morning.
good thing.
Yeah. So keeps me looking like
Yeah.
all this. I'm always looking and asking myself questions like, what we were talking about before about curiosity and how important it is to stay in that state of curiosity because it just kind of it kind of softens you a little bit to like um you know asking questions or answering questions, which some humans don't like to do. They don't like to answer questions. So but yeah.
I wonder why. Well, I don't really wonder why. Why do you think some people don't like answering questions?
I think it's it reveals vulnerabilities and areas where people don't want to share because they're living in a story. They're not living in
Mm,
reality. So a lot of times people don't like answering questions because it reveals parts of them where maybe they don't want to like show.
ready to show.
Right? I
Or
think it's
even
great.
face for themselves, huh? Like,
Yeah.
I wonder how much of it has to do with other people more often than ourselves. Like, if we can reconcile it with ourselves, we tend to don't care if other people know sometimes, you know?
Yeah, but that I think that requires a lot of work on yourself to be confident in who you are. I just think people lack confidence. They don't, they don't want to they don't want to go there. They, for whatever reason, look, I'm not the confidence police, right? Like, however you like want to be in your life, that's go ahead.
This is so real because I think it's along to like the topic, and I think it's so many. I think confidence is so layered, and you don't even
Mm,
realize like because on one level you can feel like you're confident, right? and then totally not be confident in another area. And I think that the way that I guess I believe confidence to be before was, well, yeah, if I'm confident about this, then I have confidence, and I'm confident in every space. And then you realize, oh, well, maybe not. Maybe not. And I think it's so important to know that it's layers, because then it'll have you questioning if whether or not you ever been confident. And it's like, yeah, no, you were confident in this area, but in
Right.
this one, you hadn't
Right.
built that muscle yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where the looking comes, right? Like asking oneself questions about the inner work is the work. How they say, they say you got to do all this work, but it's like I don't think it's really physical work. It's really work on the internal, like yourself, like who you are, what you want to do in this life, like the things that make
Yeah.
you know who you are is a sense of mastery in that, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's what we get distracted from in the society that we live in. We get distracted from doing the real work on ourselves, the internal work, the inner work. And so not until people realize, like, either they sick or like I noticed, like when people get sick or or something drastic happens, like or something like something happens, it's like a life change, then they start doing that work, and it's fine. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that, but I think we really got to start with our children and kind of showing them that it's like there's a mastery of the mind that we are really here that's really what it is. It's like, but no, you get stuck in the system of, like, white supremacy and capitalism, and
Yeah.
you get stuck in, like, I gotta work and make money so I can live. And a lot of folks don't ever really get the chance to, like, take the time to, like what am I here to do? Like, what is it that,
Why am I here?
like, what is it that, this can't be just my purpose to work a job and make babies and
Not feel fulfilled in what I
right.
do. Yeah.
But people feel it, but they don't know what it is. It's like a longing for something, for connection, real connection. And we live in a society that keeps you separated and fat. Like,
Yes.
there's a lot of fat people. There's a lot of people who are obese, on treat their bodies right. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm looking around. I'm like, that's why I stay in the house. I'm like, let me stop. Let me stay.
Sheesh, that is right.
Girl, I went out. Let me just say this one last thing. I went
Yes.
last week. A friend of mine was being honored for the work that she does, and so I went. And I found myself a corner somewhere, and I, like, hid in a corner. Like, I wasn't hiding. I shouldn't say that. I wasn't hiding, but it was like I'm looking around the room, and there were some, like, nice looking people in the room, right? Like some real nice looking folks, but all these dudes, like all of them, they all had, like, big guts, like the big stomachs, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I know where that comes from. That's like bad food and bad liquor, or
Bad lifestyle.
food, that's all that visceral fat that's around your organs and
Hmm.
causes all kinds of health problems. And I'm looking around the room and I'm like, okay, let me. I saw one of my girls and she's like, girl, I'm working in the other room. I was like, how are you working here? Like, I'm so confused. Like, so she came to a bar, like restaurant, with her computer. So she's in, like, the restaurant room with her computer, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, it was
What?
so weird. Like, I gotta go. I was like, let me get out of here. This is too much. Too many dudes with big guts and people working in the space where I just, like, I don't know how you working right now. I don't care how much work you got, but
Yeah.
I was like, let me go.
And you know what? As you say that, I think about, I'm trying to think. Like, there have been times when I have like wanted to go out and have work to do and brought my laptop thinking that I was going to do work. And then it's like, I'm not going to do work. Who am I kidding? But I do see people who are able to like lock in and do work. And I'm thinking, man, how much work do you have to have in order to be out at a social setting and still do work?
I
And
wouldn't
be
get.
so focused because you got to get it done. It must be due, it must be urgent, like you know, like tomorrow. So how do you do that?
I could be in that. That's just me. I know. I mean, they locked in and they moved, and there's this other woman there, and she had her stuff, her work with her too. I was like, I couldn't do it. That's just me. I'm too much of. I want to walk around and talk to
Be
people.
present. Mm-hmm.
That I couldn't do it, but they were, she went. I was like, all right, well, it was just interesting to me. I mean, I'm like, wow, like.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So let's get into the.
Let's get into the well. What do you have going on? Projects? I know, like updates. You got a lot of good stuff you're working on, and I feel like we might as well just take the people on the journey from.
So yeah, I'm going through a really huge transition right now.
Hmm.
Real big for me
Hmm.
is where I'm like actually working on my projects, not other people's projects. Like
Hmm.
that I've created, I'm fundraising for things that I've created, like for me, you know what I mean? And so, most of the work that I've done, as successful as it's been, it was always under some organization that I was working for, with, or, that type of thing. And so this project that I'm working on, the Out West Gallery and Cafe, that's my project. Like,
Yeah.
it's gone through a few iterations, but this is mine. And then, Third City Studio, which is a partnership work that I'm working with John Womack and Jasmine Garcia, and we're working to create an art studio in a cafe on North Avenue in Luna, which is like North and Central. And so, I mean, it's a lot of possibility. We've expanded the work and to create an art and cultural district on North Avenue and Central. So that's really cool. Like, we have a group of organizations and folks that we're working with to like create this kind of network of folks and businesses along North Avenue, which is cool. Like, I mean, it's exciting.
Yeah.
And the thing is that like, doing community work is a lot of work, right? Like, it's a lot of fucking work.
Managing so many people, personalities, and
Oh my God. Like,
that's
I don't think
really all.
they don't really understand like the amount of, it's just a lot all the time. And I live here. And so like just balancing work and personal is challenging. So,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's really great work, So I'm just learning, still continue, riding this train and learning how to balance like me and what I want in this life, and the projects that I'm creating in my personal life, right? So my kids are, teenagers, or they're both out of high school. They're both transitioning into their life, right? So there's a lot. That's a lot. I mean, like, I got a 18-year-old is about to be 19 next month, and I have a 17-year-old just turned 17 that graduated high school 2 years early, that is working a part-time job, is ready to travel and do her thing. And, so it's a lot, I'm dealing with that transition of being a parent and then, being an empty nester, right? So I'm going into this, which I'm really excited about. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm excited for them, but I'm also excited for me, because I've been a single parent for many years. So I'm excited.
Man.
Yeah. So it's like I said, it's a lot. It's a
Yeah.
lot. And then, family is like we've had this conversation before about family, and, my sister's not talking to me. She hasn't talked to me since my mom passed away. I only have one sister, so that's a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
This is not talking. You know, my family is kind of. We never was really close. I was never really close to my extended family, so trying to like integrate them into my life more. It's a lot, you know, because
Yeah.
I got to deal with all of those past conversations of, you know, just kind of letting all that go to like really get to know people that I don't really know.
Trust,
So,
trust them.
you
Yeah.
know, then I work in the community and do this community work. And, you know, I've been doing it for a long time. And I'm just like, okay, where's the money at? Like, you know, I'm seeing money all around me. And I'm just like, okay, okay, God, like, I'm gonna sit back. I'm gonna relax. I'm gonna write in my journal. You know, I'm gonna read my meditations and, you know, meditations on wisdom, perseverance, and the art of living. You know what I mean? I'm gonna read that and just stay focused and stay in a high vibration, high frequency. You know, so that's it. That's really it.
I I love that. And I think that just goes to the topic that I was saying, because this is more so, I guess, like a place where the transitional space I found myself in. But really quickly, so what I'm working on is, so Don't Sleep on Chicago Kids. We're putting together, working with the school to put together a league tournament, football tournament. So it's going to be June 14th and 15th. I got to check the dates, but we got the schools locked in, sponsors. Like, it's crazy how fast it went in terms of just like getting people on board and to say yes and locking down locations and things like that. And then it's the first day is financial literacy, because the concept is it's bigger than football, right? And so financial literacy first day conference, mental health, branding, marketing, things like that. And then the next day is the actual tournament. And this process has shown me that, you know how you feel like sometimes you're in transition and then other times you realize, oh, I'm there already. Like, this is not a transitional period. Like, you are there. But it still feels transitional because mentally you're like catching up to then the reality, which feels a lot backwards. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's like a whole different thing, because now it's like, okay, should I be working harder? Should I be doing more to earn it, to make it so I can know I really deserve it, I really earn it? And then I hear you say like, well, I'm just gonna sit back and I'm gonna maintain this energy and I'm a journal and I'm gonna relax. I'm not gonna stress about it. And that's literally the answer. Like, that's the answer. But when you're operating from like survival mindset, then the survivor in you says, no, I got to work harder to keep it. I got to do more so it can be, I can prove that I earned it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I started writing this Teaching from the Middle, because what I realized, so I'm creating a masterclass, not writing, I'm doing the videos, because I'm going to stop overcomplicating this. I'm going to knock out these videos and just put it out. But even that has been like a challenge for me, because it's like, it's not that I don't believe in what I'm saying, because I talk about it all the time. It's like a broken record. It's just, I realized I probably didn't believe that I deserve to, create it and to charge what I'm charging for it. And so I felt like I needed more proof. I got to create more proof. I got to create more content so I can bundle it and make it valuable and make it worth it. And I'm not gonna hold you. ChatGPT got me together. ChatGPT said, "Girl, no." Literally, it said, "Girl, no. Like, what are you doing?" And then it proceeded to break down all of these things that I've already created this year. Have not put them out, but they are done. And it's like, you created this. Like, this is, so it's not a question of like value and what you bring. This is a question of you feeling like you need to prove. And then went down a rabbit hole of, and that's rooted in survivor mindset, like survival mode. And in this season, you're already there because the stuff is already showing up. So to prove is ridiculous. That takes you back, but it didn't say that part. But it takes you back. And literally what it advised me to do is exactly what you just said, to do less when you feel the urge to do more, because one is in survival mode and the other is overflow, and knowing that it's already there. to not over deliver, because that's rooted in lack and not feeling like it's enough. So literally create the thing and charge the price, and don't think of adding another thing to it. Just put it out there. But everything that you were saying, that's exactly what it told me to do. And it got me wondering, like, why is this so hard? And I mean, it makes sense why it's hard, because it's how you survive. Like, you don't survive by doing less. You know what I'm saying? If you're in the hood or whatever the case may be, you do have to do more. And we're taught to do more. And you got to work harder. And you got to do this. You got to overachieve. And literally, I'm in a season where I'm already there and I don't have to prove that I belong there.
Right. Well, I think that's it. Like, I think it, like, in this society, we're taught that we got to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, and we got to do this and that thing. And, you know, like, we're trained to be human doers,
Mm-hmm.
right? Instead of human beings.
And that's what it told me too. It says you don't need to focus on doing anything else. You need to focus on being.
Yeah. And that's a whole
Different.
no, that's a whole nother freaking context that most humans aren't, you know, it's like we're not trained or developed in how to be.
Mm-hmm.
We don't understand high frequencies. We don't understand how to just allow and be in the moment, be present.
Mm-hmm.
We're not taught or trained or developed in that. That is something that you have to, like, discover in yourself, right? And that's what, you know, when I was saying earlier, it's like we live in a society that distracts us. It's designed that way.
To do
It's
it. Yeah.
designed for us to be distracted. It's designed for us to spend our money and our time consuming things. That's what it was created for. Because if you're a consumer, then you're going to have to create some sort of way to generate the tool to be a consumer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And money.
Mm-hmm.
But people understand money is currency. It's an energy.
Yeah.
It's a current, has a current. As they say, it's currency, right? So everything is generated by energy, because everything is energy. So if you're being scared and working really hard because you're scared, in fear, or in this mode, like you were saying, a scarcity kind of space, like, oh, I gotta do this, oh, I gotta, well, if you're like that all the time inside,
Yeah.
then that's your life all around you. It's gonna be like crazy.
Mm.
It's gonna be like that. And I'm like, you know what? My life is so quiet and chill, and I'm dealing with a lot, just all the stuff that I didn't told you.
Mm-hmm.
I told you all of that stuff. So I'm in the beginning phases of creating all of this stuff. You know, I said to myself, girl, you got to get some partners. You better
Yeah.
get, that's when you showed up, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, how do I do this thing? I've been talking about doing podcasts and being in this space for 10 years. I've been talking about it. I've been trying to do this shit with so many fucking people. So many.
Yeah.
You know, like, I talk to folks and we getting it clicks. I'm like, let's go.
Let's
But
do
see,
it.
but when I talk to you, you were like, okay, look, I got all the equipment too. I'm like, damn, it was perfect. It was like perfect time and space. You don't hesitate. You know what I mean? When you knew it was for you, you were like, let's go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I've been in conversation with people like, let's go. You know what I mean? And they like, okay. You know, and looking around, looking at me like, that'll make it happen, you know? And I'm like, fuck that. I'm not doing all the work.
Yeah.
So I just sit back. I'm like, okay, I'm going to see what you do.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to see what you do, because I know what I'll do,
Yeah.
but I'm always the one to pick
Doing.
up, run with it. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not doing that no more. I'm gonna sit my ass down
And receive.
and see what shows up.
Yes.
So that's what I said. I'm like, I know everything for me, everything in the world, that everything that happens is for me. And I'm safe and I'm protected and all is well. And if I keep on telling myself that and regenerating that in my body and my soul, then what is there to worry about?
See, that's so what was the thought that really triggered you to like be like, I'm not going to keep overdoing, I'm going to allow myself to receive? Because even that's a process to receive, to feel like you got to give back immediately or more is still rooted in survival. So to allow yourself to be like, listen, I'm going to let myself receive this time. What was that process? Because it sounds good and easy,
It's
but
not.
it's not. It's not.
It's not. So what made me sit my ass down was the universe was like, I'm gonna sit you the fuck down.
So it wasn't your choice.
It was it. This is all I got at this point.
Yeah.
I don't have a bunch of, like, literally 6 months ago, I had 3 or 4 clients. Like, no, 6 months ago, I had 4 clients that I was actively working with. So I'm on calls with them, with whatever the fuck I'm creating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was having 4 or 5 Zoom calls a day. You know what I mean? I was busy as hell. Busy. You know? Busy minded, busy life.
All types
Everybody
of stuff.
is so busy. And I'm like, actually, I am very busy right now.
I
You know? And then at the end of the year, I like put out all of these proposals, girl. I put a bunch out for almost 100K. And I'm like, oh, this is gonna come back.
Too easy. Right.
It's gonna, because that's the way it's been for the last like 4 years, 4, 5, 6 years. Ever since I my business, everything I put out there has come back 2, 3-fold. Shit, I wasn't even expecting. People handing me stuff, $800,000 contracts, just getting. They're just like, here, this is for you, and I'm like, fuck, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of responsibility. And here I am, 2 years later, putting out all this stuff, and the universe said, nope. You ain't getting a thing. Nothing. Snatched this shit right up under me. I'm like, oh shit. Okay, what do I do?
Next.
Shit. You know? So I could like freak out and worry and reach out to everybody in this desperate space, that's in the space of desperation, where if I don't get this by this date, I'm gonna get evicted on the street. These are the
thoughts that you're telling yourself.
This shit that's in my mind. Like, you gonna be on the street, living in your car.
Extreme.
I'm like, listening. See, that goes back to that, looking and listening. So I just stopped and I was listening to all of this stuff, and I'm like, whoa, that is insane. That's insane. When have you ever been homeless, girl? Stop. Like, stop it. Like, what are you doing to yourself?
But that's how the mind will trick you.
It will trick you. Now, I could go down that route and believe that story.
And then it would be.
And then I'd be fucking homeless, right? Yeah. No, I'm not doing that. That's not happening. But I am going to sit my ass down. That I will do. And girl, just like all kinds of shit been coming my way. All the things that I want to do. Invitations to be on podcasts. So Lily, be on her podcast next Saturday, right? I got invited to be on this panel. I got a connection to do some trainings, city department, so I got, there's some things happening, you know what I mean? So it's like, it might not look the way that I think it is going to look. And that's where we get caught up in. It's like, I know I get caught up in what it's supposed to look like. It doesn't ever look like,
what we think it's gonna look like.
yeah, it doesn't look like what we think it's going to look like. And so I just had to put all of that aside and just be with what it is. Right. And so yeah, that's, that it does push me to do things that I'm not comfortable doing. And that's another part. That's part of it, is like being uncomfortable. Like, what
Yeah.
is like, like what is, asking people for help, you know, asking people for money,
Allowing yourself to receive it without
yeah,
having to over explain or over
hey, like
think.
just be real. It's like a lot of the story comes from past, things that happened to me in the past. It's not happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's not happening right now. That's
Mm.
not, that's not, that's a totally different situation. So it's having those conversations with myself, right? And to know and believe, just to believe that everything that happens is for me to grow into the being that I'm here to be, not to tear me up and tear me down. It's for my benefit. Everything happens for my benefit.
Mm.
So like, I mean, that's a whole other mindset of thinking and being, that, unfortunately, a lot of us, you just don't know, we've just not developed in those, into that space. And that's okay, that at the same time.
Yeah.
It's okay,
Yeah.
it's just not for me. I had to tell one of my friends that, like, she was telling me about this situation with this person, and I heard everything she said, and I was like, I hear you. I hear everything you're saying. But you got to understand, when we're not here to judge people and how they do what they do, that's not that's not for us to we're not supposed to be here to judge people and put a stamp of approval, disapproval on them, right? Who cares?
Yep.
Like, I'm not, I'm like, okay, so I just move on. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that I'm going to be disrespectful to that person or anything like that. I'm just like, okay, I see how you do shit. I see how you do life. Great.
Yeah.
Either it works for me or if it doesn't. Plain and simple. I had this lady poke me. She literally was like in a community meeting, like trying to stir some stuff up
In the meeting.
in a community meeting. And she was trying to stir me up so I would fight with her. And I'm watching it and I'm listening to it. And I'm like, in my mind, like, this bitch is trying to provoke me.
I'll do it. Yep.
And I was like, okay. And I heard everything that she came out of her mouth, and I wasn't moved by any of it. And I just passed her up. Like, I was like, okay, thank you for sharing. Anyone else have anything else that they would like to share? Done. I'm like, I'm not that same person anymore. So yeah,
Yeah.
bring it on, universe. I'm not responding in the same way.
I love that.
Not gonna do it. Nope.
I love, and I think, man, because that's powerful. That's the thing. The responding, the doing versus just being and allowing that to just be enough. That's the
That's
thing.
right.
The thing is, you really can't know that you've passed it until it happens again. Like, it has to happen again, and you gotta know, like how you were saying, oh, she's trying to provoke me. You gotta be aware enough to know what is happening and then choose something different real time.
Yeah. I mean, but that's practice.
Practice.
That practice, like, you gotta fuck up and fall on your face. You know how many times I've fallen on my face? You know how
Yeah.
many times being in the practice? This wasn't an overnight thing.
Yeah.
Overnight. You know what I'm saying? It's like, this took a lot of time for me to develop this inside of myself.
Hmm.
Like every freaking moment of every day, I got to ask myself when I see myself slipping, Vanessa, where are you at right now? Like, what's going on? I got to ask myself, like, are you present? Where are you at? So I got to create that life of presence, right? Create the momentum. So like in my living room right now, I put, because my library is in my room, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I got 400 books in my dining room. And they just sit there. I don't really sit in there that often unless I'm at my desk. And so I was like, what am I focusing on? So I just grabbed like a bunch of books and then I went through them and then I took some out and put them back. But I was left with maybe like 10 books and I put them in my living room so I could look at them,
Yeah.
just to remind me like, this is what the fuck you're up to.
Yeah.
Like we got to remind ourselves of who we are, but you got to know who you are first, right?
You got to know who you are first to remember in the first place.
Yeah. It's a lot of work, man. Ooh, this is the hard.
I was about to say, this is like the hardest. I can go to the gym and lift weights. I can face other people. I've never been afraid to challenge other people. But when it comes to self, it's like, it seems, I guess when you explain it out loud too, it could sound like a whole lot of work, like you in your head every single day, all parts of the day. But literally what you're saying is the opposite. Like, but in order to get out of your head and to allow yourself to be, it is that head process, like the process of going through your conscious thoughts. And I can't even explain it. Like, you do have to start off in your head a bit because you got to understand what's going on in your head a bit and then regain control of it and reprogram it a bit. But then if you can get to that point where you can master it, then you can allow yourself to just be, because you can trust that the new habits that you build through practicing they'll just be on automatic. They'll just show up.
Yep.
But then you got to trust that.
Yeah.
And then it comes down to how much you trust yourself to be on autopilot and to just go.
Well, I mean, we are in autopilot most of the time.
Right. We are, whether we realize it or not, but to trust your own work enough to say, okay, now here we go.
Yeah, I mean, that's the work, is to get to the place so you can really be in your life. I think we just get caught up in the distractions. Like I could just, I think it's just really distractions that we get caught up in, right? It's like what's happening on the outside of us, like that on the outside of us, like we can't control what happens on the outside. Man. Like you can't.
As much as we want to, as much
right.
as we love
this motherfucker that's in my life, I'm just giving you an example. Like people, like, oh, they're pointing and blaming people, but you allow that shit. You're allowing it in your life. You can say no.
Yeah.
You can say, no, I don't want this person in my life. I don't want this situation. I don't want it. But people always have a reason or an excuse. Oh, well, I need the money, or he does, or that person does that for me, or blah, 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 blah. Like you can't control those fucking people. The only person you can control is you.
Yourself.
But people don't want, most people out here are OC. They OC girl. Most people are out of control. They don't know. They have no idea of any running program or any running narrative, anything that's in their head. I had a coach one time. He told me to stop. He's like, just stop right now. Stop, Vanessa. And I stopped for like 2 seconds and I was like, blah, blah, blah. He's like, no, stop. And I stopped. And he's like, stop. He had to yell at me. He's like, stop. And I was like,
he mean it.
And he's like, don't say anything for like 5 minutes. I don't want you to say anything. And I just bawled. I started crying because I heard all the shit that was going on in my head. Most people, they're distracted, girl. They just continue to fucking chit chat, and most people are just, spitting out that fucking story, man. They have no clue, you know. That's why I was like, when I went out the other night and I'm looking around the room, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go over there. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this ain't my scene. You know what I'm saying? Like, no.
Man, when I hear you say that, it also makes me think like most people like don't know the stories that they're telling themselves, but then some do, but get so caught up in wanting people to see them and to understand their story and hear it that they just never stop regurgitating it over and over and over again, because now it's just to be heard and understood by other people. But to your point, if I'm gonna regurgitate this story, if I'm gonna tell myself this story, it's not because I need somebody else to understand it. It's for my own understanding. So then I can decide if I want to keep this story or if I want to change it or add something to it. Well, you can't really change what's happened, but you can add to it, and you can shift it. You can shift the narrative.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the thing, like not feeling like we need people to see and understand our stuff. We need to see and understand our stuff and then decide what to do with it from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's really, it's really about ourselves. Like,
Everything.
I wasn't born. I was born when my mother pushed me out. You know what I mean? I was a perfect little bundle of love and joy that emerged into this earthly plane, and that is the way that we are. That's the way that we are, at the core of it. That's who we are, you know what I mean? And we get, we start absorbing all of the things that are around us and creating these stories and meanings and all the rest of these things that don't mean anything.
They don't mean anything.
They don't mean anything. We create all the meaning. So, it's like once you start to realize, like, you are the creator. Everything around us has been created by us. Isn't that pretty freaking amazing?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it amazing? Like, out of all of the times that we could be living, we're actually living at this time.
Yeah.
This profound moment that we're living in right now. It's huge. We're miracles. Like, if you get that part, like,
that's the first part.
Nothing wrong. Then, then if you do see something that's not aligned in your life, then you got to do the work.
Yeah, we got to stop ducking the work.
People don't want to do that work. They don't want to do it.
We got to stop ducking it because it's legit the only way. You know what I've realized? And you helped me with this. This is like a shortcut to the work, to my own work.
Yeah, come on.
Remember when we were talking about like you setting your intention for the week, and I told you I wanted to give people more grace, and you said, well, I wonder where you're not giving grace to, yourself in those where areas are you may not be giving grace to yourself. So again, when you said that, I'm like, yes, it made me think about grace and giving it to myself, but then it also made me think, and this has really been a game changer for me. It made me start thinking about all of the advice I had been given, like for the day. So in my reflection for the night, I'm thinking about what was the thing that I talked about most. And I mean, not just, sometimes you give advice based on what you can see and it has nothing to do with you. You can just see it. But then it's sometimes you're giving advice and you're passionate about it. So it's like that advice when people don't listen and you get mad about it. And it's like that. It's like, what was I talking about today that I felt really passionate about? I'm sorry, this is my dog wanting attention. That I was really passionate about, that I was giving to other people. And then I look for cycles too. Like, how many did I talk about it a lot during the day? Like, did I write about it? And then for myself, it's like, like yesterday, for example, I was doing interviews at a high school for seniors, and the biggest thing was just confidence. And so what I decided to do was take your advice. So at the end of my days and my reflection, once I can like pinpoint the pattern, then I just start to turn it to myself. Now, what areas of myself might I need to focus on these things? Because why else would I be so passionate about it for someone else? And it's really been like, now, is it always going to be the case where it applies to me or something I can think of right away? No, but what I found is that more often than not, I can figure out in myself where I probably needed to take my own advice. And I'm like, wow, this is such a beautiful thing. So I can give you the advice because I can see it, but I can see it because it's in me. And so now I can take my own, the advice that I'm giving you is really meant for me. So I'm gonna take my own advice and then you do it as you please. And that has been like the craziest freeing thing. It almost feels like a cheat code because it helped me start to see myself even faster based on my interactions with people.
Yeah, it really all starts with people, right? But I have a question for you. So how I don't want to say how. I want to say, um, do you find yourself giving unsolicited advice?
I think that people come to me for advice often, but I find myself saying the things that I know I'm like, oh, I know that I'm pressing a button. And I think it becomes unsolicited. It has become unsolicited because even if initially they came to me, I'll keep bringing it up because now you done brought it up and now I see it. And so it's over and over and over again. And I think that is the part that's helping me not do that anymore because now I'm realizing like that advice that I gave, though it was warranted for the time, it really was for myself. So I don't have to keep bringing it up because that's when it becomes unsolicited. Whereas, at one point, like you maybe came because you needed to vent and you really did genuinely want the advice. And then every point after that, it's unsolicited unless you ask again. You know what I mean? And so to answer your question on the long and short part is yes, but it would be like that. So for me, I didn't think that it was unsolicited because for me, you opened the door anyway. I wouldn't even know this. We wouldn't even be having these conversations. But now it's like you don't need to keep repeating yourself to people. You need to follow your own advice, and then you need to allow people to eat the meat and spit out the bones. They're going to do with it as they please, and that has to be okay because once you transition from you constantly bringing this up, now you're trying to fix people, and it don't work that way. And that can cause division. That can cause people to now they want to start to resist because I don't want to keep having this conversation with you every time I see you. So that is something that I did notice, and I'm like, even this has helped me. Like, no, girl, that advice was good for them for that moment, but now take it for yourself. And now what you gonna do with it?
That's interesting.
What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like, I think I get like a couple of people in my life that ask me advice. I don't really get a whole lot of folks asking me. I've never really gotten a whole lot of people ask me for advice. So, when I do give it, I'm like you know what I mean? Not so much bringing it up every time, but I just wonder, like, sometimes I wonder, like if my relationships are, because I just don't have a certain type of conversation. I just don't have, right? And I wonder if it's people just don't bring it to me, or they have other people in their life that they vent to. I just don't get a whole lot of venting.
Oh, I do.
They don't vent because I usually cut them off. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna front. Like, I'll be like, yeah, I'm probably not the one to do that too. Because I've actually, this one friend of mine, well, she was a friend, but that's all our relationship was a venting session for her. And I just couldn't understand like why she kept on making the same choices all the time. And so like that was the thing. It was like you come to me you tell me what like you tell me the situations that you're in, like venting to me your stuff, and then I just didn't understand like why she kept on making the same choices. I'm like, why am I doing the same shit? Like I'm so confused. So I just got really busy and I just never called her. It was 2022. 2022 was a crazy year for me. So I just stopped talking to her. So but so maybe that that's part of it. Like I just don't get but
But
I love
oh, go ahead.
I love what you said about like noticing that a lot of the time the advice like actually is for you, and it's only through those conversations that you have with people where you start to see it in yourself too, right? Which is the observation. That's really great. Like most people, they'll give the advice, but they don't live through it. Like they don't live it up to the advice. And what I'm hearing you say is that you see your impact. You see the impact that you have on the people around you, that you see the impact that the people around you have on you. And you're also seeing like how that advice that you're giving also is about you too, which is like that's very multi-layered, that's very deep. A lot of people don't think like that. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's great that you actually are impacted by who you are, essentially.
But I
It's like,
didn't think about it until you asked me the question and you kind of like put it back on me. And it's like, right, everything comes back to self. And so if I'm feeling the urge to just give this thing to people and to do this thing for people or to give this advice, if I'm feeling that led to do it, then what is it in myself that I'm not giving that I might need to, just like that? But
so
that came from you.
so tell me a little bit about this ebook workbook or ebook that turned into
You see how crazy it is? Yes.
like a master class, right? Like, because I just love how you started, right? Like, so you started with this ebook that turned into this whole other thing, right? Like, and it's so like, which is huge, right? Like, because first of all, writing anything and completing it is, like creating something and completing it is profound, right?
Yes.
Like that. But what you did was you got on the road to do this one thing, and it just opened up this whole other realm that you had no idea about, right?
Yeah.
And you did this whole other thing, which I'm so excited to to be with you while you're doing this stuff. Like I'm just like, what? This girl is bad, you know? Like, yeah.
Crazy.
So tell us about this in which you've created and
I
a little of your process and whatever else you want to share.
I think what I've learned for sure in this process is that if the work that you're creating does not, at least for me, like if it's not actually inspiring me to grow with it, then it's probably not the work I should be doing. So initially, this started last year with the thought when I saw the Erica Badu quote, the universe doesn't give you what you ask for, it gives you what you are, right? So then I created the workbook, the free workbook at the top of this year, just to kind of do an overview of that, like just the idea of understanding that you got to be the thing. And it's so interesting because working, like creating the work, also exposed to me the areas of my life where I was not necessarily following through with what I knew. You know what I'm saying? So it's, I don't know. It's just crazy because I was breaking down the three minds, like your conscious, subconscious, unconscious. And I'm like, right, consciously, I know all of this stuff. This is how I'm creating it. But it started to expose to me like like these areas and these other places of my life where I was still struggling with the same thing I was writing, which is so crazy. But then it's not, because it made me think, it made me start looking at other masterclass, like Oprah's masterclass. And she was having a conversation with, I forget who I was watching, but he was just saying typical things like we would say just from experience. And she was like, how do you know all of these things? And he was like, I've experienced them, like just from life. So which exposed to me again this idea of thinking that you need to have proof to be more proof to prove that you can write these things, that you're accredited for these things, when really people are creating these master classes from their life experiences. And that's why it sounds so profound and it sounds like wisdom, because it is, because they've set back and they've done the work that we're doing, and then they felt confident enough to document it as they did it and put it out. You know what I mean? Like I think about Mel Robbins, Let Them. I don't know if you heard about that book that she just put, Let Them, but I'm watching her interviews, and Let Them was birthed while she was having to actively practice what she was saying, which is what makes it impactful. So it went from the free workbook, because again, me thinking I need to prove first, so let me create something that's super valuable for free to hook you. And then the free workbook just started to become, what was the workbook, like 20 pages or something? This is a free thing. Why would it be that many pages? And so then I'm like, okay, this has to be the ebook. So then I started writing the ebook. I'm like, no, this is too deep for an ebook. So how much could I charge for this? Would people pay $50 for an ebook? Does that make sense? You know, and so then it's like, well, of course I got to make it more. I got to make it more extravagant. So let me turn this ebook into a training manual that now is at 93 pages. And it just seemed like it was not going to stop. And it wasn't going to stop because I kept thinking I needed to add more value. I needed to figure out another way to say it. I needed it to be more practical. I need this to be so transformational. I'm asking ChatGPT, like, who else is doing it just like this? And if I'm talking about it's giving me a list of multiple people that crosses ranges. So it's like nobody actually is doing it just like this in one, but this is where it kind of falls. And so then I found myself like continually seeking this validation. And so the masterclass truly is a challenge to myself to prove that I can do it now. And that's why it's going to be titled Teaching from the Middle, because essentially that's where I think that we'll always find ourselves there as long as we're students. There's always going to be a part of our lives where it doesn't feel finished yet, but I'm here now, and what I have from now is still extremely valuable. And the other part is, in order for me to get to the next part, this is a part of that. Like I have to put it out, because the only thing that's stopping me from putting it out now is just feeling like I need to do more. And that is rooted in the same mindset that I started writing this thing about in the first place. And so it's like, oh, I got to be the thing. So I got to be the person in overflow. And I have to release this knowing that it is already done. Like it's already done. I have to believe that to release it, to get back that kind of energy. And so honestly, this is a challenge to myself to just do it, because this is the same thing I tell people. How many times have I told you, girl, you could do an ebook, you could do this, do that. That was advice for me. Like, girl, do the thing and put it out and let it be enough. And so that's where we are with it.
That's so great.
It's scary.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but you did it, and you're doing it.
Yeah.
Inside of, well, I shouldn't say inside of it, but with fear being present.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the thing that most people wait. You know, they wait because they're scared to do it, right? Yeah. And they wait because they want it to be this thing, and they want it to be perfect, and they want it to look a certain way and be a certain way.
More evidence, more proof.
They want the proof and all the rest of that, right? And what you're saying is like you worked through that, because inevitably it was all really about you creating this masterclass, right? Like it was all of the steps that brought you to creating that thing, you know, for you to realize that you are a master in something, you know, that you can master something, you know, for whatever reason you tell yourself something different, but you made it so by you just like being who you are. You know what I mean? That's what the being looks like. That's the being. Like you didn't stop. You said, no, that is not it. That's not what I want to do. That doesn't That's not giving the full breadth of
Yeah.
thing. It's not, not so much it's not enough, but it's not complete. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
like for you to see that when you were done at that point, when you finished that one part, you're like, well, wait, there's so much more. Like, I want
Mm-hmm.
this and I want to talk about that and I want to talk about this. So you're becoming more confident
Mm.
inside of you creating. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Masterpiece. That's what it looks like when you create a masterpiece. Like it's something that brings out in you something deeper than what you thought,
It
you
would
know.
be, yeah.
So I mean, I'm so proud of you that you set out to do it. You've learned. Oh, I mean, like, girl,
It's been a great.
I from that thing, like realizing the advice that you give is really for you.
Yeah.
That's deep. You know how many people out here? I know so many damn people quick to give advice, boy. You know, and look at you, sluthing looking.
Yeah.
Look, you know what I mean?
I
Like you,
know you're not taking your own word.
but you look. I remember this one. I was running one time. I was on my way back, and I was tired, and I was like at the last little bit of street, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do something in this last couple blocks, right? So doing something, picking up my pace a little bit. And this old dude driving a car drives by in his old dusty ass car and tells me I need to pick up my feet. And at first I was really pissed, right? Right? Because I was like, look at this old
And I'm
MF,
already tired. I don't have time. This is not the time to give me advice.
you know? But that's how unsolicited advice usually lands,
Yeah.
right? Like it might have been the case. It might have been very true. Very much so. But you in a car driving down the street, old man probably needs to run himself person.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You got some nerve giving me advice when I'm in the street doing it. It would be different if you're running beside me, but you driving down the street in a car trying to give me advice. Yeah, it
It
didn't
don't.
land.
Yeah, it doesn't land.
It didn't land. But I mean, my point is that you see like the impact on
Yeah.
your. That's deep, girl. That's so deep.
And it's so crazy because it doesn't feel deep. That's what makes it like makes me struggle. But I know it is because I just told you it does feel like a cheat code in a sense because I can get to my things faster now a little bit, at least in that way. But at the
Right.
same time, it's like it just don't hit me like how it's hit. And I think that's what makes me question the value of what I'm doing. I'm like, is this very valuable? Is this really valuable? But then I hear
Yes.
you say it and it's like, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that that goes back to what I was saying earlier about what are what story or
Oh,
what did
yeah.
you create around the expectations of how it's supposed to feel like? You know what I mean? I think that goes back to that analogy about exercise, right? Like, or anything really, like that, just that analogy of building a muscle. It doesn't really feel good, or it might not feel the way you thought it was going to feel, or it doesn't, like I think that, a lot of time, like that's what happened to me when I created Pop Courts, like I created
Mm.
outdoor plaza space. It was my idea that brought together all of these people to help create this thing. And we found the money to get it done. The city helped. It was beautiful. We have our opening. We got food trucks. We got 250 people out there. It was great, and I'm
Thing.
around and I'm like, like like it's another day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like anything special or anything, right? Like I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is great, you know? And afterwards, I was like, wow, like I thought it would feel different. Like I really would, I thought it would be different.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just created like an outdoor plaza space that has never been created
Never been down here.
ever in the city of
Never
Chicago.
been down here. Yes.
I got the city department of Chicago Department of Transportation to paint in the intersection. They never painted in the intersection any other place, anywhere in the fucking city of Chicago. And these motherfuckers painted in the middle of the street.
And that's a huge, yeah. So you
It's
understand,
huge.
Yeah, you understand what I'm saying. But
And
what is that? Is
was
it
like,
just what is that? Is that just what happens when you create from, I don't know, like what is that?
I
Because
think it's
like, you hear it with most people. They don't like with artists. They don't believe that they're the song that is the hit. That's usually the song they didn't even like. So it's like, what is that?
I think it's because it came so easy. It
Because
was
it came easy.
it wasn't like I did anything special or I didn't. It was literally a conversation that I had with two people about something that I was in the process of already doing already. That I was gonna do if they helped me or not.
Yeah.
I wasn't already in it was already done at that point because I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. And
Yeah.
I think that it came so easy to me. It wasn't like I did anything extraordinary for me now.
Yeah.
You know, now for everybody else looking in, they're like, holy shit, you just freaking did
Had-
this. You know what I mean? Like nobody's ever done anything like this before. Everybody in Austin on Chicago Avenue, they've been doing work on the ad for 20 years. These people have been doing all this work in the community. Here I come. I'm not even from the West Side. I move here, I live here, I build this stuff, and I bring art to the West Side. I'm just being myself. Just I think that's it.
And I, as soon as you said it was easy, it goes back to those survival beliefs that ease, it has to be a scam. Like nothing should come easy. Anything worth having is you got to work hard for it. And it's literally that reinforcement that ease, you should be apprehensive of it. Because if it's easy, then it can't last long. It can't be right. It gotta be tough. It has to be a challenge to be great. And that's literally just not the case when you reach a certain level. Like maybe to get to this point, you had to do all of those things. You have to work hard. There is a place where you do have to work hard, but then there's a place that if the hard work starts to pay off, and then it does feel like ease.
Well, I mean, I think with anything, you have to become an expert. You got to become an expert in what you do. So you got to like practice something over time. Because then there are some fundamental things that you know how to do. Like it's become automatic in you. So there is a bit of like practice that has to go into anything that is meaningful to that individual. You have to have some sort of practice, right? But then, yeah, I mean, but even in the practice of it, even when it's not what you want it to be, or the way that you know, like it's not turning out the way that you thought it would. If even then, you know, because of the love that you have for that thing or the thing, whatever it does, it brings it in a bit of excitement, right? If it brings excitement and it brings intrigue and all of those things, curiosity, you know, you're going to continue to do it.
Yeah.
You're going to continue to do it. So I think, you know, like, I think that, you know, yeah, I mean, you get to a point where ease is an important part of manifestation. It's an important part, like you from knowing who you are, knowing, you know, like all of those parts. There's no doubt in my life about what I'm here to do or what, you know, who I am. There's no doubt. I don't doubt those things. You know what I mean? But when doubt does show up, but I know when doubt shows up, it ain't me. It
Yeah.
ain't me. That's some other fucking, that's some other thing that showed up to try and get me away from me again. You know what I mean? That's just the human condition, girl. That's the shit that's the hardest shit.
That's
It's like, bitch, stop. Do it.
man, but we're literally rewarded for challenges and facing them head on. And then what do we say? Man, that's too easy. Give me something else. When really that could just be the thing. That's your thing because it's that easy. Lean into it.
Yeah, I mean, that's that consumerism kind of, pull yourself up out of bootstraps and
Man, you don't even realize how it like the imprint that it has.
it's a distraction. It distracts you from tapping into flow. Like flow, like people don't understand like flow.
That's the whole
There's
thing.
certain momentum that comes with flow. Like I don't like I don't lay around. I'm not a lay around person. I just don't lay around, right? Always doing something. I'm always in action. Even when I'm not in action, I'm in action because the
Yeah,
action is to be not to be in action, right?
yeah, yeah,
So to rest is an action.
yeah,
To meditate is an action. For me to sit and to look at the plants in my living room is an action, right?
yeah,
But I think that you know, we don't come from that mindset in that sense, right? So, like sitting is something that it's an important part. Rest is so important. It's like when you tenderize meat, you marinate, you let it sit,
yeah,
that
yeah,
sauce that you create. You know what I mean? It's got to sit for at least 30 minutes for it to penetrate the meat. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. It's like you got to let it sit. You got to sit for minutes to let the download happen, to let the thing marinate, it's like don't make the rash decisions. Let it
yeah.
sit. Let's see where it lands. We don't do that.
We don't do it. And it makes me wonder how many people are kind of like, I guess, in the same spot I was at, where it's like you're resisting ease and flow because it doesn't feel safe or normal because we've already been wired to expect hard and to be prepared for it because we've overcome it because you do got to reach a certain point in your career. It's like a cliff you got to jump off of, but you're jumping off going from doing like hard to just being. It's a literal cliff you got to jump off of. And I wonder how many people are just at that cliff wondering like what is the next thing that they have to do to get to the other side
Yeah.
versus what'll happen if I just now trust the work that I've done and just trust it all and just be in it.
Right. I think that's the real part that I mean, I think I think the leaders that are here in this time are folks that understand what putting it on the line means. You know what I mean? That really understood, really get that, like, you gotta do, you gotta like, you kind of gotta take a little time to let it sit for a minute to really let it penetrate you, right? And to
Mhm.
see, you gotta, but also like, it takes a lot of work to get there. Like, I just I don't know if, a lot of humans aren't here at this time to do that work. It's unfortunate. But some of us that are here to help to like lead or guide or, folks, it's really our part of our duty to, to be in the flow, to be in the ease, to allow life to be the way it is, right? And then that kind of models a way of being that people can say to themselves, like, wow, I've never thought about it like that. Like, I never,
Yeah.
being in the flow, or, being in a relaxed state. And that actually being a form of protest too, because like we live in a society that makes us, that says all of those things that you said, like you got to work hard, you gotta get a job, you know what I mean? And it's like, and it's like, yeah, that's a way of doing it. I'm not saying that doesn't work, but to what end? I mean, it's like I'm
That,
like, what?
when
Like
does it stop?
I'm tired of working. I don't want to work for. I'm not people anymore. I work for me. This person right here. I'm working for me. I don't want to work for folks that, first of all, like a lot of folks don't. They don't even know who they are. A lot of
Yeah.
times people got agendas too, girl. Like folks got agendas, and
Yeah.
they trying to make things work. It's fine. Like, hey, I don't know. I know I'm not about to push a boulder up a mountain. This is too much.
Man.
Forcing life, forcing situations. Like that's how a lot of people live. They live like that.
Because we're
You know,
rewarded for it. You in the beginning.
look at Down. Good
Yep.
example. Who likes to force things on people.
Yep.
You know, like, and it works. See, here's the thing: it's like it that works for him. He gets the kind of result that he's looking for. He's looking for those results. He's playing a game, and that game is giving him exactly what he wants. And now there's a lot of people that live like that. I'm not saying that's a wrong way to live, because I'm not here. I don't know what that person's purpose is on the planet, and I'm not here to judge them. But I'm saying is that there is
Yeah.
there's another way of doing it. You don't have to do it that way.
Yeah.
Other ways of being at ease and joy and fun and love. Like whatever happened to those things? Like what happened, when you were a kid?
Play. That was prioritized. Go outside and play every day.
We don't do that as adults. Adults are worried and serious and thinking, all the time. And I'm like, man, that shit is for the fucking birds, man.
Yes.
I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to have fun. I want to, girl. Yeah. So
I don't know. I love this. I love that we're shifting to video. I'm really interested to see how this grows. Um, I love this. I do. I really, because I think that's just I can only be really vulnerable and transparent and let y'all know, like, everything that you're saying is just the thing that I had to realize for myself too. And so understanding that even as we speak about living in the flow, like that really you really have to get it through your body
it's
for it to
hard.
really click. It's not as easy as it sounds, but it never will become easy if you don't start practicing it. So for
Yeah.
me, what that looks like is resting when I feel the need to do more. Like when I feel like I need to just, oh girl, you got to do this, because it came from a worry, then making myself rest. And that's going to be a battle, because then my thoughts going to be going like, well, girl, you got this, and this. But I have to reprogram my mind one way or the other. And the only way to do it is by action and just over time, consistency. So I don't know, as we start to wrap this up, because we're at 1 hour and 20, what are our final thoughts? What are some things that we want to leave? What do we want to leave this people with from this episode? It could be a question, maybe a wrap up of the whole conversation, just some whatever thoughts that you have based on this conversation. Let's what do we have here?
Well, I would like to implement like an action item.
Mm,
So, because like I want folks to understand the importance of action, right? The importance of how to, or not even how to, but like what areas in your life would you like to see something different, right? Like what, and so like I think the thing that what I led with was just being in the space of introspection, like looking and asking yourself questions and seeing, looking at listening to the stories that you say to yourself, like I think those are the things that kind of lead to discovery and to understanding the self. And I don't think we take a lot of time to do that. So, and I say that because like I have a lot of very professional and, you know, I have a lot of friends that, that are working on amazing projects that are professional and they don't ever sit down and write
Hmm.
thoughts out. And I think it's important to see and hear and to read kind of the things that you say to yourself. So maybe do some free writing.
Hmm.
When you get up in the morning, first thing in the morning before or as you're, drinking morning coffee or whatever you do in the morning, like write a page of free writing, like whatever comes to your mind, write it out. So you
Hmm.
could see like what you say to yourself, right? Because I think that that's something that so many people just don't take the time to do. And
Yeah.
a good starting place to understand more of, who you are and what internally you're saying to yourself. Um, because the inner work is really about inner work. So yeah, I would say one of the things that I got from today is the inner work to do some of those things, have actions around that. And that's kind of what we both do, right?
Yeah.
It's like to kind of coach people through, this deeper conversation of the self. Because at the end of the day, that is really about you, right? At the end of the day, it's
Yeah.
really you as an individual in this society, in this community, and how you add to it, right? But there's got to be some internal work done, and that's a good start. So the
Yeah.
action day for the day would be like, in the morning for, if you could do it for the whole week, that's great. If you can, and, if that's not something you just don't have time. If you could do it once or twice a week, just to start, like doing that free writing, just get a piece of paper and write out whatever comes to mind. I think that is a good way to start the, the process, or start the practice of self-discovery.
I love that. And I would just like to say, I don't want to change it. My dog is restless, but I love that. And she made me forget my thought too. What was I
Mhm.
going to say?
I was talking about internal work.
Oh, yes. And so the only thing I want to add to it, I guess, is just the excuse that somebody might have, which is I don't have time, and they may run down their whole day. And one thing I've learned from myself is that though I might have a reason why it may be harder to do this, I can't let it be an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
So to your point, like that really is the first step. You got to start by getting it out your head and getting it on paper. And then from there you can take whatever steps comes to you or you feel is next, but the first one is that. And so if you never make time, there will never be time. So if all you can see is your busy schedule, then you're always going to only see that. So I would just challenge you, wherever you start to find yourself making excuses, understand it can be a good reason. It could be true. You could have a busy schedule, all of those things, but it's still not an excuse, because you really can't skip this work. You can't skip over it. Like, you have to do it.
That's what to do. I mean,
That's if you want something different.
right. It also goes back to like, um, you know, how bad do you want it?
How badly do you want it? Yeah.
You know, like if you're saying that you want to create, you want to make a difference in your life. Like I said that to myself, and I tried a bunch of things, and I continue to explore different tools and different ways, and I continue to do it. Some of them work, some of them don't. You know what I mean? So if you say you really want this life, you got to do the damn work.
You got
At
you
the
have
end of it. So don't come to me or don't go to anybody and say, oh, my life is shit and or whatever the hell complaint that you have, you know, and you're not doing the work. That's why it's not working. So, hey, I don't know. I don't know what to say. When people, you know, when they give an excuse, I'll be like, so fucking what? So what?
so what? It doesn't care.
Does not care.
It doesn't care.
Feelings, excuses, reasons. It does not give a hoot and fucking holler about any of it.
It
You just
doesn't care.
talking shit. Okay, go somewhere else because you're not about to be around me.
Yeah.
I just want if you're not gonna do the work, go find somebody else. So find somewhere else to go.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's that part. It's that part. It's really nothing else to add. You just got to do it. And it does not care about your circumstances. Everybody has circumstances. Everybody is navigating something
Right.
at one time every day. Everybody is.
Girl. That I mean that reminds me of I saw this video online. I'm gonna end it here.
Okay.
And this woman, and it was like a dating, like one of those little clips where this woman walks in to this dude's house and she sits down and then the you know, like the beeping noise beeps.
And then she gets
like,
up, the smoke alarm.
The door just walks out. Sometimes it's like that. You know what I mean? Sometimes like there's a sign or a symbol of something that happens that you in you know, are you going to take the red flag? Or you know, like, because a lot of times we just
something else.
We just swallow it and just
stay
in the room with a motherfucker you already know in that moment it ain't for you. You know what I'm saying? And so I love that because it happened. She got up and she walked out.
Yeah.
And that's how it is for a lot of us. But we take one for the team, or we you know we that red flag shows up and we just ignore it, and then we just stay with that person or situation. You know what I mean? It's like you can't do that in life. And if you do that in life, then that's why your life turns out the way that it does.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah. And if you are trying to do it, because I was certainly one of those people, you got to ask yourself, what is it that you're trying to fix in somebody else that you probably are, again, neglecting in yourself? For me, it used to stem from control, feeling like I can at least control. If I can just tell them this, it'll change this, it'll do this. And to your point,
no,
it just doesn't.
No,
it just doesn't. And so use that energy for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And do that thing that your body is rejecting and telling you,
yes,
you shouldn't be doing. Oh, I gotta work. I gotta do this. I got this. No, that's just letting you know. The resistance is letting you know that's where you need to go.
Yep.
So just go do it.
Go towards the resistance. Yes, that's another key. One of my cheat codes.
It is, girl. All right.
Okay, well, as we wrap this up, this is a great one. I'm excited for this. This is the first of many.
Yes.
This one was not streamed live. This is our first one. I'm gonna upload it though. But starting Monday, we got the flow. We know what it is. We in there.
Okay, cool. And I'll get some. I'm sure we'll talk before, and then find what our theme.
Yeah, our themes for because we will be going into another quarter. It came fast. We're ending quarter one, going into quarter two. So
Yeah, sounds great.
all right, this was great. Have a great rest of your day.
Too.
Bye.